Transform, flip horizontal. Can you read this now? Yeah, you can. All right. I have some rules. Basically, what this is and what it isn't. Let's start with what this is. This is purely. I gotta move the fucking game now because it's gonna look weird. It's on that side. So, I should also check to see if the stream is even up. I guess that would be a good idea. Hold on. Hold. Hold on. Hold. All right. Audio's good. So, this is for documentary purposes only. And I simply just want to document everything that I can remember. It's going to take a while, a long time, and I hopefully plan on downloading everything and uploading it onto YouTube just so that I can have it. It can be shared. I don't hide anything. I don't like lying. I guess y'all could talk about it. Y'all could do whatever you want with it, honestly, once it's out there. Um, this is for me and me only. That being said, I will probably not pay attention to people talking. I'm just gonna be yapping, just yapping. If you like listening to people yap, I'm your guy. Um, this is also for my peace of mind in case something ever happens to me, especially in this day and age. If anything happens to me, if I ever lose my memories, if I ever unfortunately die, uh, hopefully before then, I will have hours of content of just me. The good, the bad, the ugly, the weird. It'll just be me. And then maybe in the future, they'll develop an AI to resurrect me from the grave. I also wrote down here background sound. Maybe people want it. Maybe people like me that much. I don't think they do. But that's all I wrote for what this is. I believe it is everything that I kind of want this to be. It's for documenting, sharing, for myself, for my peace of mind, in case anything happens to me, and maybe y'all can use it for background sound. Uh, what this isn't, this is not a pity party. I don't want a pity party. Most of my memories I have already made peace with. I don't need people saying sorry. I don't need people feeling bad for me. I'm fine. Generally speaking, I'm as fine as the next guy. Like, I don't need it. Um, this is not a trauma measuring contest. Something that I've noticed a lot of people like doing on the internet is comparing their traumas to mine and trying to get a one up on it. I I don't give a shit, and nobody else does either. This is not a place of judgment. It's simply just to record it, just to have something that shows that I existed. You know, this is also not a place to psychoanalyze me. I don't think that's gonna happen because nobody really cares. But that's just stuff that I would like to avoid, and that's what I wrote on my little list. I'll be using this whiteboard, probably to draw stuff on it. This isn't a draw my life, but I also like I want to draw things that I remember, and if that's floor plans to a house, then I'm gonna do that. Um, but I suppose I should get started and start talking. I'm gonna have RuneScape playing in the background because I need multiple fucking neurons in my brain to fire in order to focus on anything. Um, erasing. I wrote down so I can draw something in the future. But I suppose we should start. My name is Asher Owen Hubble, a name given to me by my mother. I do not believe my dad was present at the time of me being born, but I suppose, or to write down everything, you should get a background check on who my parents are. My mom, uh, Heather Dawn Moody. I have a picture of them. Cute little baby. I keep it on my desk. This Heather Dawn Moody. I don't know much about them. Keep that up. Maybe I should keep that up here. I don't know much about them other than life that I lived with them, but I don't really know what life was like before. I can only go by stories. And according to my family, my mother was a party animal. They liked partying. They wore a lot of black, and my grandmother said that they were Wiccan. They practiced rituals and worshipped Satan, but I don't really attribute much thought to that, as um, my grandma is super religious, like very very religious. Anything that they say, it's multiplied by like times 100. I don't know how serious that is. Um, I can only assume that my parents met sometime near the end of college, not college, high school. I don't think either of them went to college. Um, yeah, I don't know much about my mom. I know that their family is scattered across the United States. I haven't met any of them in person. I don't know what they're like. Um, but I can probably say that my parents met somewhere around high school. I'd have to ask my dad, but he doesn't like talking about it. My dad, on the other hand, I do know a lot about. He's a vocal kind of guy. Um, from the age of 18 for my father, I don't know where they met. I don't know what he was all about, but well, I do know what he was all about. Hi, Artemis. It's been a while. I'm doing. I'm sorry, you missed the beginning part, but I'm doing a project where I record every conceivable memory, start to finish. I just went through all the rules. I don't know if Twitch has an option to go back, but you can read it if you're interested. Essentially, what you got to worry about is I'm going to be yapping. I'm going to be talking a lot, and I probably won't be interacting with the chat that often because this is mostly for me. I'm going to download the VOD that Twitch uploads and try to chuck it on YouTube and then keep a catalog. And um, I got a little game, got a little RuneScape in the corner there, but I'm just going to be yapping a lot if you want someone to talk. I'm not going to stop talking either. So far, you just got in the beginning. I'm talking about my parents. Um, so anyway, my father, my father, my father, from what I can tell, was a not like a bad boy. I don't know how to describe it. He was bad. He was kind of evil, to be so honest. His name is, I believe, Stephen Robert Hubble. And from what I've heard, the reason why I haven't stayed in contact with my mom's side of the family is because they fucking hate my father. My father was notorious for destroying schools from the inside out, corrupting people and getting them addicted to drugs and kind of taking advantage of them. My dad was not a good guy. Um, with that being said, my mom and my father, they met, and I believe my father went off into the military. My father did his 4 years. I was born during the 4 years, so he must have come back on vacation. I was conceived during one of those vacation trips, I guess. And what that ended up doing is that for the first 2 years of my life, my father was not present. It was just me and my mom. In a chapter that I'm going to be dividing this into chapters based off of landmarks. Um, First chapter is going to be the apartments. This is where I want to start drawing the apartments. Um, it's important to note, but not necessary. I cannot tell if I remember actually being born, and I cannot decipher whether or not that is a dream I had as a child or something that actually happened. But this dream effectively that I had, or possible reality, is that I came out of the womb and I remember seeing an incredibly bright light, uh, painfully bright. And I desperately tried opening my eyes to see what the hell is happening, to simply see figures standing around me. That is about it. That is maybe my first memory, maybe a dream. Who knows? Um, that being said, that could be my most earliest memory, that could not be. Who knows? Um, but when I was first born, I lived in an apartment with my mother. Something that I will be drawing out for you because I remember the floor plan. People don't believe me when I tell them that I have memories from when I was 1 or 2, but I in fact do. And this apartment, I have a lot of good memories in it from ages 1 to 2 or 3. I could be 1, 2, or 3. I don't 100% remember, and I've already fucked it up by making it too big. So give me a second. Um, so my earliest memories was possibly that dream, or I do remember being in a crib. I do remember being in a crib and feeling very trapped inside said crib. Um, I do remember feeling very upset in a crib, me wanting to get out of it, and me feeling very scared that I was alone. I remember uh, trying to sleep one night and having a very difficult time sleeping because I kept shoving my face into a blanket and not being able to breathe. Uh, I remember having bad dreams. I don't remember what the dreams were, but I do remember waking up in the middle of the night and being scared that nobody was there. Sorry, I'm just drawing here. I want to get this right because no, over here, here, or here that the end of the bathroom was hallway was my rib was right there. Play space. This stuff is gonna be. I'm not an architect, so it's not gonna. Like it's gonna be all disconjoined. This was the floor plan. You see that? Ooh. That is the floor plan of the house that I was born in. I'm gonna call it the apartments. Um, I believe it was an apartment. It was a two-story building. We were on the bottom floor, and I remember it being very big. It was just a big block. Like it literally looked like this. And there were stairs that went up on the side. Literally looked like that. Right there. Wherever it is. Right there. Two stories. We're on the first floor. Um, it was just me and my mom. And I did everything with them. I sorry, I'm trying to keep this in chronological order, but I think that might be impossible with how young I am. I might just have to riff off things that I remember. I remember doing everything with them. Never left their side. I remember waking up every morning and getting clothed a couple of times. I remember that a couple of times. I remember being able to crawl for the first time. Because before I needed to be picked up and moved around. But I remember they set me on the ground one day and they had to go do something in the kitchen or something. Motherly things. And I remember crawling for the first time and feeling very ecstatic that I could crawl. And I literally thought to myself, you're not, you gotta believe me. I remember crawling for the first time. Okay. I remember and thinking I had trouble speaking as a child. My mom taught me ASL, really basic ASL, to communicate with them when I was a baby. But I remember crawling and thinking to myself about how exciting that was. Not because I can get around, but because I felt like I was a speed demon and I loved going fast. Um, Also, at this time, this is probably year one. Like, I had my first birthday. So we're at year one right now. At the time, I had a walker, just like a little device that you put a child in, and it supports them so they don't fall over, and you can prop your legs back and forth to get some distance. I had a walker, and I remember being frustrated with the walker because of how clunky it was and how my feet barely touched the ground. Um, couldn't go fast in it. I'd often end up getting stuck. So I was really excited to start crawling, and I remember my mother's reaction to me crawling and how excited they were. They gave me a lot of praise all the time. Mm, Probably why I remembered it was because of how proud my mother was when I started crawling. Um, I remember crawling so much that I ended up getting. Also, where I started crawling was in this area right here. They put me in the play place. That says play place right there. My bedroom. Sorry, I didn't even describe like how this was set up. My bedroom was right here. This was the bathroom. That was our kitchen. That is the master's bedroom, and this is generally to scale. Um, like it was a square building. I remember that, and I don't think my room was like that tiny little hallway. There was probably more space there, but I started crawling. It was in the play place right there. There was also another couch on that wall, if I remember correctly. I remember crawling for the first time, and I crawled so much I would get carpet burns, and that hurt. I remember getting rashes on my knees and my hands because I'm a little stupid fucking baby, and I would just too excited to crawl. Um, Other things I remember taking baths with my mom and being annoyed about how the water was cold. My mom would try to make it hotter, but in hindsight, as an adult, I could probably see that they didn't want me burning up in a bathtub if the water was too hot. Um, they used a cup. I remember getting very agitated with soap getting in my eyes. Uh, this became such a big problem that my mom would switch shampoos very often to try to find one that didn't hurt my eyes. They all did. It's a lie. No tear shampoo. It still hurts. Um, they're lying. Because that shit got on my eyes all the fucking time. That shit sucked. I don't know if it's weird, but my mom would also join me in the bath. They probably thought that I wouldn't remember, and I don't really remember what they looked like naked, but uh, I do remember taking baths with them constantly. Um, what else do I remember? I don't remember eating anything. I don't remember eating at this little table here in that corner. That little circle. That was our circle table. I don't remember having any kind of meal. I was obviously I was fed, but it's just like this food is important in memories. And I genuinely don't remember eating at all in this apartment. Other memories I have, just to go to show that I spent all of my time with my mother. We often would sleep in the same bed most of the time, 90% of the time, until they wanted space. They would put me in the crib. The crib was located right across from the door. So that's the door. My crib was in eyes view, probably so they can leave their door open, my door open, so that they could see me from their bed. But I often slept in their bedroom. Crawling for the first time happened without my dad there. My dad was not present for the first 2 years of me being alive. Around the age of two, probably more memories of me being one. Can't seem to remember them. I was thinking about also having an off series where I would retcon things as they came up. It's very different when you have a camera on you and you have to keep talking. But I do remember lightly, very faintly, in the during the age of the transition from one to two. Um, using signs to communicate what I wanted. Very, very, very faintly. Like, 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 as if a piece of information was written on a piece of paper and it was soaked in water and aged with time. Like, it's very faint. What I do remember is around when I was turning two, my mom having a conversation with me, telling me that I have a dad. In fact, I have a dad, and I remember somehow asking them what a dad was. My mom described it as another guardian, another person just like them, that they were going to help. I was scared of this idea uh, because he was basically a stranger. And I didn't really see many other people. I don't remember going out that often of the house at this age. But I remember seeing my dad for the first time. I was sitting on the couch, I think. I think I was sitting on the couch. And I remember him walking through the doors. And yeah, it was weird. The feeling that I got, I didn't really feel like it was my dad for a while. He just kind of felt like a stranger. I was just leaving the house now. But I grew accustomed to him, and he was nice and funny. I don't think he was currently living with my mother. I think he had his own place. He would come by, visit us often. But it was still primarily my mother and me. Very shortly after my dad arrived, um, I learned how to walk. I very distinctly remember walking. I remember I was ecstatic. I was getting a lot of praise because not only did I learn how to walk, but I also said my first word. Um, I could have sworn my first word was mom, but my mom or my grandmother and my dad disagrees. I think they said my first word was like no. Um, I remember it being mom. Um, I remember my parents would often have little play dates with me. This probably happened like 10 or 15 times. They would just basically hang out in the living room. This room right here. This is why I drew this so that I can point to rooms. Um, they would basically plop me in the center of this room. One would sit on this end, the other would sit on the other end, and they would just hang out with me. And one of the hangouts, I remember I would crawl back and forth between them. They would just talk to each other. I don't remember anything that they said, but I remember one time after we were they were getting ready to move on with the day. I distinctly remember my mother picking me up and me either saying mom or dad or a word, and my mother absolutely losing their mind. They went, "Oh my gosh, what did you just say? Did you say something? Ah!" Losing their mind and wanting me to repeat it, and me feeling very on the spotlight and very nervous about what just happened and if I did something that was bad. Um, I ended up repeating it, and I remember both my mom and my dad celebrating over this. I think they hugged with me in the center. Very heartwarming, very sweet. I also very distinctly remember, going back to what I said like 5 minutes ago, I very distinctly remember walking for the first time. Um, I did not like walking at all. I was very scared to walk. Um, but I remember I was getting to the age where they wanted me to walk really bad. They didn't like the fact that I was kind of stuck crawling. And I even remember to myself, as a kid, like, I don't want to start walking. I can just crawl everywhere. Um, there's no need for it. Uh, I remember during one of the little play dates in the living room, they set me up on one side, and I think it was my dad who pushed the idea that I needed to start walking. What he would do is that he would hold me by the hands and lift me up onto my legs and essentially tell me to try to walk to my mother. And I would take a step, eat shit, fall, and then crawl. And they were very good about this because I didn't freak out. I didn't freak out until one of them freaked out because I think I like landed on my head or something. Um, oh shoot, another memory. Sorry, I just remembered something. I got bit by a dog. I remember, 'cause this was before I could walk. Chronological order. I got bit by a dog. I was visiting not my grandparents, my great grandparents on my grandma's side, and they had a dog. I would often, I believe we went to this place kind of a lot. We were having a little get together, and I remember crawling away into kind of like where the laundry room is, because I really liked their dog. I thought their dog was sick as hell. I just wanted to hang out with their dog, but I remember them telling me that the dog has a temper and he can't be mean, and that they were talking. They said, "Yeah, it was fine as long as we have a parent there, and as long as you don't hit the dog too hard, you'll be okay." I distinctly remember them talking about that while I was at someone's feet, and I remember it was getting around dinner time, and my great grandparents just fed the dog, and they were all in the dining area eating, and I crawled away because I wanted to feed the dog. I wanted the dog to eat with me. I thought the dog was sick as fuck, and it was really dark. The light was off, and I remember crawling up to the food dish and sticking my hand in its food bowl, and I tried feeding it the kibble. I thought it might have needed help eating for whatever reason. I'm fucking 1 to 2 years old, all right? And unbeknownst to me, because I'm a baby, the dog was growling at me the entire time. And to be so honest, this went on for like 5 to 10 minutes of me grabbing its food, sticking it into its face, and him growling at me whenever I got close to its food. And since I'm a stupid idiot baby, I didn't realize that this was the dog telling me to fuck off. I kept doing it, and my memory blacks out completely. I do not remember anything else after a certain point. I remember one last growl, and then it's just gone. It's, I probably died. It's just gone. And now I am left. I don't know what side of it on my face. I have a scar on this side. Very faint. I have a scar right here, and I also have a bunch of kind of divots in my head because the dog just put its whole fucking head around, or its whole mouth around my head. Um, Fast forward, I people told me the story. I faintly remember. I know I remember because I remember the food mat. It was of Scooby Doo. They had a Scooby Doo food mat for the dog, and I remember looking at the Scooby Doo food mat and going, "That's sick as fuck." There's a dog on there. I really liked dogs. Um, I have scars all around my head. Um, anyway, I'm fine. I didn't die. Uh, Back to the original memory of me walking for the first time. This went on to me trying to get me to walk back and forth for what felt like an hour. I did not want to do it, and I was too scared. And I remember feeling just how heavy I was and how sluggish my body was trying to do things. I had no dexterity whatsoever, and trying to find balance was very difficult because I felt very heavy. My legs were really weak. Um, the best way that I can describe the feeling of not being able to control your limbs was I would try to tell my hand to do something, and my hand would, I would think, move my finger in such a way, right? But then there's a guy in my head that has a control panel. When I tell him I want to go and grab this marker, the guy just slams all of the buttons on the computer, and I end up firing every single ligament in my arm and end up punching it. No dexterity whatsoever. This is very obvious. You're a fucking baby. Um, but I remember I took my first step. I was on my mom's side, and they lifted me up because I fell again. And I took my first step, and I didn't fall. And I remember my parents celebrating once again, and them celebrating scared me because it was really loud, and I ended up falling. And they were like, "Oh no 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 no! Get back up! Get back up!" And I remember my mom's voice egging me on to walk towards my dad. I still, I still did not like my father at this point. I kind of just wanted to stay on my mom's side. Um, but since they were telling me to do it, I ended up doing it, and I did in fact start walking. I wasn't good at it. I didn't like doing it, but of course, over the years, your legs get stronger and it gets easier. Um, I have very little memories left of the apartments. I think the rest of them. No, there was another one. My mom, this is after I started walking, my dad wasn't at the house. It was just me and my mom. I already started walking, and I believe they have upgraded my crib. My crib was cool. It was just a normal crib. It was made out of wood. Um, and it was like an upgradable crib. It was a crib with cool fun gadgets. Essentially, the crib was designed to keep toddlers in, and then once they got to a certain age, you could take one of the walls and drop it so that the toddler, when they started walking and have more freedom, they can exit the crib when they wanted. And hi Eva Ben. I'm doing a I'm good. I'm doing a little documentary thing of my entire life. We are currently still on year one. I've just been yapping. If you like yapping, I'm gonna be yapping. Um anyway, one last memory before my brother was born. I think. I think I've gotten through everything else. It's really difficult to remember memories from when you were 1 to 2. Um, what you doing, man? I'm I'm talking about every conceivable memory that I've had ever. And I'm recording it for me. So I'm sorry if I don't respond at all sometimes. This is fine because I'm still trying to like formulate what this memory was. And oh, thanks, Eva. It's a new series I'm doing. Um, if you're interested at all, I put rules in the beginning of it, and I've just been yapping. Um, and then I have just RuneScape playing in the background because I love RuneScape. Yeah, so anyway, sorry, I'm trying to find the words. So anyway, also you didn't follow me. I didn't get a notification, goofball. I remember waking up one morning and getting out of my bed, and I distinctly remember walking out into the living room where I found my mom celebrating. And I think at this point I was able to formulate basic sentences. And I think also at this point my mom was pregnant with my brother. Um, and I remember my mom celebrating. They were singing, they had music playing. Where am I from? I'm from California. This, I don't know where these apartments were. I believe they were from, it's either possibly Reading or Merced. Maybe a little. Eva Ben, can you do me a favor and just type out your name? Just for me. Type out your name. Okay, thank you. I haven't streamed in a while, and I couldn't tell if you were a bot or not. uh, Sorry if that offends you. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, I remember waking up from the crib and walking out, and I distinctly remember rubbing my eye and seeing my mom celebrating. And I remember asking my mom, I can't tell if I used words or if I signed it. I knew very basic ASL at a young age. I think I signed it, and I remember my mom uh saying over and over again. This is purely documentary, okay? This is just documentary of my entire life. I remember my mom saying over and over again, "Jesus is here, Jesus is here, Jesus is here," and they were dancing around the room and listening to loud music. And I came out and I effectively asked my mom, "What the heck are you doing?" And my mom ends up explaining to me I'm celebrating because I am just entranced basically in this kind of state that Jesus is here. And I remember asking, who is Jesus? And she ends up describing to me a man who passed away for us so that we can live eternally in the afterlife. And I remember hearing this from my mother and being kind of fucking terrified. Terrified. I had so many questions immediately, just coming from a 2-year old. And I believe this was also my first case of learning what death was and what happens when you die. And I kind of ignored the whole biblical thing. I didn't really care about Jesus. I just wanted to know, what do you mean dying? And they described to me that at one point in time, um, you will pass away and go to a better place and leave everything here behind. And I didn't like that. I thought that was stupid. And I remember asking, somehow asking, because I like, it's difficult for me to really convey how the conversation went because I don't remember saying anything, but I do remember having questions and somehow getting them across and effectively not learning anything and feeling kind of more empty than how I started. But also, I'm a kid and my mom was celebrating, and I kind of just wanted to have fun. Um, this went on for a while, and it wasn't until my brother being born. I'm effectively going to talk about this until I leave the apartments. It's going to be kind of how I separate all these memories is based off of time landmarks. My brother was born while we were living in the apartments, and I remember having conversations with my mother, telling my mom telling me that I'm going to have a brother soon, and that he was going to be my best friend, and that was exciting. I was really excited to have a brother, and I remember looking at her tummy, how pregnant people get, and I also remember missing my mother. I wasn't seeing them as often as I did while they were pregnant. Um, I believe I was mostly hanging out with my grandparents or my father, and I also have a memory. It's one of those memories where I don't remember if it's a dream or if it's real, but I think I might remember my mother's water being broken and them being rushed into an ambulance to deliver my brother and having someone watch me at home. I don't think I was in the hospital when my brother was born, but that could be wrong. Um, I remember my mom coming back with my brother after some time had passed and kind of annoyingly uh being disappointed. In my mind, I remember having this thought in my mind. I thought it was going to be someone my age who had my capabilities of moving. But obviously, when you were just born, you're just a little guy and you can't play, you can't talk, you can't hang out. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's a huge disappointment. Like, what can I do with this little dude? But I was patient. Um, I remember my mom telling me that he's going to grow up and he's going to be my best friend. And so I believed him. I was like, okay, I'll wait. Very shortly, I don't have a lot of memories after that point. We're already kind of getting to the end of the apartment era. Just keep in mind, I'm ages 1 to 2. And slightly, I yeah. So it's like eight. I was here for 2 to 3 years. Okay, and we ended up moving out of this place around the time when I was 3 or turning 3. Um, that's kind of the time frame I'm working with here. So I don't have a whole lot of memories, but I do remember one thing distinctly. I remember once my brother was born, my dad had already fully moved in to the apartment and he had kind of taken over my mom's room and I wasn't allowed to sleep in there anymore. And I didn't like that. I had trouble sleeping, mostly because my bed was uncomfortable, but also because I just liked being around my mom a lot. And I remember my mom having that conversation with me and me being very upset about it. And that became kind of like a point of contention and argument, adult to fucking 2-year old. By the way, my parents were also in their 20s. They had me when they were 18. Um, in hindsight, my parents were children. Um, and I remember one night, my mom had a party. People came over. I'm assuming to celebrate my brother Zane. I also just forgot to mention my brother's name. Um, Zane was born 2 years in February, or 2 years apart. His name, I believe, his full name, I'm not too sure about his middle name. I believe his full name is Zane Robert Hubble. That's probably wrong though. I haven't seen his middle name in a while. I'm terrible with names. Another reason why I'm making this. Um, I have a very distinct memory of me having trouble sleeping during one of these parties. I'm assuming it was to celebrate Zane's life, and there were loud, there was loud music, and my bed was uncomfortable, and I remember restlessly laying in the bed trying to sleep, but to no avail, and knowing that I wasn't allowed to sleep in my mom's room for whatever reason that I didn't understand. I thought it would be cute if I surprised them by sleeping them in their bed. And the party was over and they came back. What I did is that I snuck out of my bed. I remember being very quiet because uh, I also remember Zane crying a lot. He was a whiner. He cried a lot, and never felt jealousy for the attention that he got. I mostly just felt annoyance that he cried a lot, coming from a 2 year old. And I remember thinking to myself that I'm going to sneak out of my room, sneak into my mother's room, and get under the covers and sleep in that bed. And I successfully got out of my bed. I remember reaching really high because the was doorknobs are pretty high up. I remember reaching really high and outstretching my arm all the way and just slightly grabbing the doorknob and very quietly, very slowly turning it and opening my door and creaking it open. And I remember getting about halfway through the doorway when light bled into the room and woke my brother up. I was being very slow. I thought if I moved really slow, I'd be very quiet. And it wasn't until my brother woke up, he started screaming and crying, um, which alerted my mom. I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm about to be found out. I remember sprinting into my mom's room, which conveniently had its door open, and running into their bed. And my mom then proceeded to kind of comfort my brother, get him to stop crying. And obviously, being a mother, wondering where the hell their second child is, um, assumed that I ran into their room because they are smart and I am a 2 year old. And I remember my mom begging me to get back into my room and going to sleep in there. Which leads me to believe that this probably wasn't the first time that I've tried sneaking into their room and sleeping in their bed. Um, so I remember them sounding very tired and very annoyed at what I did. And I remember feeling rage, just complete anger that my brother foiled my plans. And I ended up talking to him. I remember up telling him that that wasn't going to cut it, essentially. I was giving him like a pep talk in my sleep. I was like, listen, I remember trying to convey kind of like my disappointment to them while they were trying to sleep. I was like, you can't be doing that. Like, can't be foiling my plans. And I think I think that's all the memories from the apartments. The only memories I have left is oh wait, I completely forgot about the neighbors. Um Probably around the time when my brother was born, 'cause I think I was able to walk by then. We had learned that the neighbors had a kid that was also my age. And I think my mom scheduled a little play date for me to hang out with their kids. And I remember being placed in their room, which I thought was a lot cooler than my room. I remember one of the kids telling me that I was allowed to jump on their bed. Um, I thought that was fucking awesome. I couldn't jump on my bed. My bed was a crib, and it wasn't bouncy. It was literally just like wood and then pad with a bunch of blankets and stuffed animals and whatnot. Um, I also had a blue uh, knitted blanket that I really liked, and I still like it to this day. I have uh, hand knitted white blankets that I don't ever get to see anymore. I don't see people selling them anymore, but it's like those big white ones that have like designs knitted into it. My favorite blanket of all time. Those are the only blankets that I really like because of that, I guess. I was inseparable from this blanket because I love the texture of it. I like how thin it is. I like how it's not scratchy. Um, it doesn't really keep me warm, but I just like the feeling of it. I don't know. Anyway, I jumped on this kid's bed. We only had one play date, and I remember thinking to myself, just like, man, I want to come here every night and jump on their bed. I remember having that thought. Um, I have one memory of me being outside of the house, and I think my mom just let us outside of the house to hang out or do something. I don't know. Somehow I was outside of the house. I ran out of the house, and I wanted to go talk to the kid upstairs. Because if you remember, that's what the building looked like. There's some plants, and the road was like, you know, over here. There's some plants and some grass. Um, I remember sneaking away from my mom, getting to the stairs here, and I started climbing them. It's very difficult to climb stairs as a 1 foot fat baby, but I got to stair two before my mom started freaking out because they didn't know where I was, and they ended up finding me, and um, they ended up being very upset, obviously, because I ran away from them and I was putting myself in danger. Uh, I remember they rushed over and they picked me up and they told me that they couldn't let me do that out of fear that I would. This is their words, it stuck with me. Uh, Please don't go and climb those stairs. You could crack your head open. They said that distinctly. You can crack your head open. And I was like, that's even possible in my own mind. And I later then remember having a nightmare um, of my mother climbing the stairs and cracking their head open. And I distinctly remember like not like the way the dream went was that I couldn't find them in the house, and I ended up somehow getting outside after I heard them call for me. And in the dream, I remember my mom on the ground next to the stairs, kind of like in the position of like the Family Guy. Hold on. fun. Uh, kind of like this, to be so honest. It's just gonna, yeah, kind of like this. My mom was kind of in my dream. They were kind of exactly like this. Um, and I remember kind of like turning around, not turning around, but like circling them and seeing their face. Uh, I had no concept of death at the time. I didn't know what it looked like. So in the dream, my mom was still alive, but their head was cracked open, and I think the insides of their head had like egg in it. 2-year-old me, by the way. Just a reminder, okay? And I remember them in my dream talking to me and telling me that they were gonna die now and go see Jesus. Thanks, Mom, for putting that idea in my head. Um, and me freaking out about it, waking up. Uh, Fun little 2-year-old dreams. Um, the only thing left, I think, we talked about the neighbors, talked about my dad. My dad still wasn't, I don't have a lot of memories of my dad at this age. He basically was just non existent. Um, he would come around, talk to us sometimes. Uh, I don't remember any eating. I remember moving out and them taking all of the stuff out of the house. And I very, very vividly remember um, going into the house after everything was taken out of, and we were staying over at someone else's place while we were making this transition to what I will be calling the Merced house. I remember walking into the house and it smelling fucking awful. It smelled fucking terrible. I think the power was turned off, which meant the fridge didn't work. And I don't think my parents completely emptied the fridge because I remember walking through the house and thinking to myself, wow, this is so cool. There's nothing here. Oh, random memory. Fucking, okay. Carpet, carpet. Basically carpet everywhere except the bathroom and the kitchen. Uh, this motherfucker. This little, I gotta, this stupid fucking thing. The transition from carpet to tile. Uh, there's nails. There's goddamn nails. There's staples there, and the carpet was getting like uplifted. I remember hurting myself on this thing countless times. Countless times. I would stab myself. And I crawled, so I would just go into the fucking staples there. Just random memory. Me hurting myself as a kid. Um, yeah, I remember walking through the house and it being completely empty. And me walking into the kitchen and it just smelled rancid. Completely rancid. Very gross. And at the time, I think we might have been staying at my grandparents as we were making this house transition. Um, Another faint memory that I have was my parents coming by and picking me up to go see a movie, which is something they said that they did a lot. I only remember while we were at the apartments, I think they only did it once, but I distinctly remember being carried out into their car, being put in their back seat. Um, yeah, I think I only remember them doing it one time. Um, During the transition, I'll add this to the apartments. I remember seeing the Merced house. I must have been 3 at the time. My brother being 1 years old now. Um, I remember the house, seeing the house, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to draw the house because we're coming to a close on this years 1 to 2 of what I could possibly remember. Um, I I remember seeing the house and walking up to it. And the previous owners of the house, the way that it was working was that I think it was just a direct transaction. I don't remember a realtor being around at all. But I remember my parents walking into the house and me meeting the owners of the house. They were a Mexican family who didn't speak English at all. No English, just Spanish. Maybe there was a guy there to translate, but I very vividly remember them saying words that I had no idea what it was. Obviously, in hindsight of being an adult, they were speaking Spanish. And they had a kid my age, um, that I got to hang out with for a little bit. I don't remember his name, but he ended up telling me his name, and because it was in another language, uh, effectively, it was a Latin American name, and I wasn't familiar with that at all. I'm a fucking white kid. I couldn't. I remember not being able to pronounce it. It was like Rodriguez or something. Um, this kid had this toy that I thought was really cool, or I should say, toys. He had army men, and what this kid would do is that he would set his army men up around the house and create little battles. I was like, holy moly, that's fucking awesome. That's fucking so cool. It's like it's in real life. Um, I remember they had a black leather couch, and I think that might have been the first time I got to know what leather was. I didn't like it. It was cold and sticky and gross. But I played Army Men's with this little Mexican kid for the entire time that they were talking. Didn't understand anything the kid was trying to tell me, and he ended up just pointing to things and saying it in Spanish, and me kind of piecing together what he was trying to say. But it was enjoyable. I really liked it. I did not leave the living room, so I didn't really get to explore the Merced house on our first day, but they eventually wrapped things up. I went back to my grandparents, and in a couple of days' time, my parents ended up picking us up, and we moved in. The black couch was still there. I think the house came partially furnished, and just a little fast forward. I'm probably gonna end it here because we're now in, like Merced House territory where there's a lot more meat to it. There's a lot more memories. I will probably do this by year, starting at age 3. I will probably go through preschool and kindergarten, as well as all the memories that I had going up to that point. It's probably going to be mixed. But anyway, fast forward like a year later. Maybe not a year. I don't know. Time is so weird when you're trying to remember it. It was a long time. It was a while for a 3-year-old. And I remember we were exploring the couch because the couch was cool. It had a bunch of buttons and knobs and cool little features, little like things that leg stuff, and like you can retract it, and cup holders and whatnot. We ended up finding one of those things in the car where you can like lift the little arm space, little compartment. Couch had a compartment in it, and my mom ended up finding it and going, Asher, you should open up that compartment. And opened it to find a bag of army men with a note, and it said something in broken English because I didn't know how to read at the time because I'm a fucking 2-year-old. My mom ended up reading it. I think I could read it. I could kind of piece together what it was trying to say. Um, but it was effectively saying, you know, thank you for having such a great time with me. Here's a token. Here's some army men to show you how much I like you, or something like that. It was signed by Rodriguez, the little kid, and I was just so fucking ecstatic to have Army Men. Holy moly! I think that concludes everything. I think I got through everything. All right, I think that's everything from the apartments. Yeah, there's not a lot. Not a lot. Mostly because I'm a stupid idiot kid, and that was like 29 years ago. But yeah, I think I got through everything that I can remember from the apartments. It was a lot of my mom. So I guess like in conclusion, like years 0 to 3 or 2, it was 3 because my brother was born at the apartments. I just hung out with my mom a lot. Um, didn't matter what we were doing. It was just me and mom. And I have very, very clear memories. Well, somewhat clear. I basically just spilled all my memories. I'm gonna be a whole lot less interesting if I ever finish this series. But I just remember hanging out with my mom. Any other kind of unnotable memory would just be me and my mom sitting around while my mom did something that I don't remember what they were doing. I just did not like leaving their side. Um, to say that my mom was my best friend at this time is an understatement. 'Cause they were all I had for these first couple years of my conceivable life. Yeah, I think that does it. Nobody joined. That's okay. It's not for anyone, but it's always that awkwardness when I have to say that I'm going to end because I have nothing left to talk about, and I certainly do not want to get into the first year of the Merced House without doing some thinking, some planning, and some figuring out. Because the Merced House ends up taking up about another 2 years of my life, possibly 3, but that is jam packed with a lot more memories. I ended up going to preschool and kindergarten. Preschool, kindergarten, and first grade at the Merced House. But I think first grade was cut short because I do remember more spoilers. I do remember once we moved out of the Merced House and we went down to Southern California in Napomo, um, my grandparents trying to figure out how to get me into second grade and saying that I was probably going to get held back. But there was a mistake on the school's end. They didn't transfer my credentials correctly, and they just gave me a fresh start because I'm a stupid idiot 5-year-old at the time. So I probably think I never went to first grade, or I got. I also don't remember anything from first grade, like at all. Like I was trying to imagine what my first grade experience was like, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't think of it. It's just not there. Like I don't remember going to school. I remember going to kindergarten very clearly, but then first grade, it's just nothing. I don't remember who my teacher was. I don't remember my classmates. Did I even go to first grade? I don't even know. But that's the end of the apartments. Um, some key takeaways to wrap things up. My brother was born. I hung out with my mom a lot. My dad wasn't present for a little bit. Um, I became familiar with death very early. Oh, shit, there's one last memory. This happened at the apartments because I remember talking to my mom about it and feeling very lonely. Um, I remember waking up one day and feeling really upset. This was shortly after my mom told me who Jesus was and basically introduced me to Christianity. Um, I remember waking up one morning and feeling very upset over the idea of death. I couldn't get over the idea that one day everyone will leave behind everything and move on to another place. I didn't like that like at all. And I often I kind of thought in my child head that it was a choice for somebody to leave. My mom made it sound like it was a choice because that's what Christianity is. It's about choosing to do it. You have choice. Um, I remember thinking to myself, man, I think I'm going to choose to leave, or my mom does, because I cannot imagine a world that I can keep going on without my mother. And I remember telling this to them in very broken child English. You know, I think I used the words. I decided that I'm going to go see Jesus before you do because I can't imagine. I don't want to keep going if you're not here. And I remember telling my mom that, and my mom breaking down almost instantly. 'Cause they brought it up. They asked me what was on my mind because I looked sad, and I told them that, and I believe my mom started crying hearing that, and they said something along the lines of, "Oh, sweetheart, I know that's going to be very difficult if that happens, but you also have to think about it from my perspective. If you leave before me, I also couldn't keep going." And I didn't think about that perspective. And to tell you the truth, as a stupid idiot 2-year-old, that didn't bring me any comfort either. Because I guess I was. It's hard to say that I was very objective, but like objectively, when you look at that without empathy, because you're a 2-year-old, like I'm still left with the same thing in that result. Me not having a mom. And I remember my mom sitting me down and making me promise to stay no matter what. And I remember feeling that I lied to them and that that wasn't how I truly felt. It was just something that I had to say in order to get them to not feel as sad. I didn't think that they would be sad hearing that. I thought that was the only logical conclusion um, that I could come up with as a 2-year-old. That conversation kind of changed me immediately. Um, Kind of put things into perspective at a very young age that I wasn't gonna have my mom forever, and that one day I would have to be on my own. And there's no choice. I can't choose not be on my own. Eventually, they will leave. And I also remember thinking my dad was gonna leave too. I didn't really care as a kid because at the same time, my dad wasn't present for the first couple of years of my life. He was still a stranger to me. Um, he was just a guy that showed up and he was kind of funny and he was fun to hang out with. But like, if he were to make me choose between the two of them as a child, like at the time, it was my mom. It was just easy. And I remember thinking like, if my mom leaves, I'm gonna be stuck with my dad. um, sounds bad, and I should state that I don't feel that way anymore. But like, that's just how I felt as a kid. Um, but anyway, that was really important. I don't know how I forgot to bring that up. Um, and I think that takes us to the Merced house. I think I have memories of my mom shopping and me being in a stroller and me really, really, really not liking the stroller at all. And I think I remember being preferred to be held instead of being in a stroller. I think at first I thought the stroller was cool, but that is also one of those extremely faint memories that I can't tell if it's real or not. Um, yeah, an hour and a half to describe first 2 years of my life. I think that's pretty good. If you're listening to this, thank you for listening. I hope it was entertaining. And then next time I do this, I will talk about the first year at the Merced House to the best of my ability. However, I have a suspicion that those years bleed together too much, and it will simply just turn into a mosh pit of information that I went through. Um, but once again, I'm doing this for me. I'm not necessarily doing it for other people. Um, and if people choose to listen, then they will listen. And if they don't, then they don't. Anyway, thank you. Bye bye now.